Good morning, Rotimi. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Bolaji.
Now, we had just 3 days of trading last week, and we will be having the same number of trading days for this week. Now, what is your take on activities for those days? As the all-share index, as I mentioned earlier on, again, 1.26% at 26,817.24 points.
Well, I think for what we've seen so far, last week did not meet expectation of the operators and investors. We had expected that the week we close with a much higher percentage in the all-share index than what we actually saw. A paltry 1.26% is still so much insufficient to reduce considerably the year-to-date negative position of the oil share index, standing at about 22.47% now. So I think those 3 days were small. In terms of volume and value, the total value of shares traded was just a little above 6 billion, which implies an average gain of about 2 billion naira. And that also wasn't sufficient at this point in time. But the market is in pre-open right now. And we just want to believe that the kind of change we see this week will definitely be better than what we saw last week. At least let the market drop down below 20% negative. And I think that definitely will go a long way. But I don't really see an increase in the negative position this week. I believe that there will be some positive trend in most of the major securities, especially the top 5.
Now, you said that you had expected the markets to do more than it did last week. But however, did you put this into consideration that investors may likely want to sell their shares, part of which will be used for the Christmas holiday, and that may have contributed to the low numbers that you had?
Well, I think that is not far from the point, because there is so much paucity of funds within the system, so much liquidity squeeze, and everybody is looking for avenue to actually raise some money. And I think also with what we've heard from the government and the budget layout, I think a lot of people are also apprehensive of the kind of things that we may be seeing in the early part of the year. So I think it's quite understandable on the part of investors who are selling some shares to actually hold on to some cash. But I want to believe that they should be overtaken today, starting today, by the portfolio managers, at least to be able to upgrade their position in terms of portfolio valuation. So I expect that that effect of those who are selling will be masked by the portfolio managers who will begin to take us of positions right now.
Now, still talking about last week's numbers, we had a mix of banks, oil and gas, and conglomerate stocks on the gainers table. Now, tell us what drove the numbers for these stocks.
Well, I think for the oil and gas, we saw a very impressive performance coming from 40 Oil PLC. And at the same time, we know that that stock in itself has more than 30% of the total valuation of that sector. So with all seeing an increase of about 12.52% in that particular stock, I think it definitely automatically uplifts that particular sectoral index. And that was exactly what we saw.
Okay, just before I ask you for your projections for the week, not just for today, I'd like us to look at the financial services industry, which led the chart. Of course, it has always been the attraction for investors, the banks and other financial stocks. But let's take a look at the percentage of the consumer goods industry. We saw that pulling 30.5 million shares at over 2 billion naira in value. Why do you have these figures, especially knowing that there's been increase in prices of some of these items that we buy for the consumer goods industry?
Well, I think the sector has been the contribution from that sector has been so much for the market, and also I think for that particular sector, they have better results in this last quarter of the year because they have more sales and all of that, and there's so much expectation as to at least an improvement in their figures. And I think that also is an incentive for investors to want to take more of that sector. But relative to the financial services sector, I think there is still so much gap because of the number of shares in issue for those stocks listed in the financial services sector.
Okay, let's talk about the outlook for today. Do we expect a bullish market at the end of the session? Of course, we closed at 1.26% on the green for last week.
Well, I think the usual telltale signs, which we see during pre-open, that we cannot see right now, that we show whether the market is going to be bullish for today. But I want to believe that strongly that with so many of the securities trading almost close to the price they were listed earlier on, because Dangote Cement, for instance, is trading considerably low. So I want to believe that we will see some improvement in that of Nigerian Breweries, Zenith Bank, Guaranty Trust Bank, and maybe probably Nestle. So I think when we see movement in such securities, then definitely it will uplift every other one in the sector. So I think all in all, I expect a positive performance for the market today.
Okay. Thank you, Rotimi, for your time.